Subject this morning, making habits help you. Making habits help you. First, we should know something about habits. What are habits? Habits are automatic action, that's all. Habits are the result of an economy of nature so that we will not have to use our will every time we do something. Take, for instance, in walking. I don't know whether you remember it or not, I don't. That first step you took, well, you had to use your will an awful lot to take that first step. So it's a good thing that nature helps us by these things called habits, especially in ordinary routine duties like driving the car. I'm afraid sometimes we rely too much on habit, and other duties around the house and so forth. It is because of the law of habit that it is much easier to do these things, because of this economy of nature. When we perform an action, there's a blueprint laid up in the brain of every action we do, and when we put the needle of our attention on that blueprint, then we automatically act again. And when we do it several times, repeat it, then the habit, or then the action becomes automatic, and it is known as a habit. So you can see that habit can be very helpful, especially under certain conditions. On the one hand, the habit can be creative, beneficial, and uplifting. And on the other hand, it can be destructive, destroying, and detrimental. That's why we must understand this question of habit and utilize it for good rather than for destructive purposes. It can be used both ways. That we must thoroughly understand. Now, in utilizing the power of habit to help us, we should remember that we are really creatures of habit. We are creatures of habit more than we realize. You stop and analyze yourself, and you'll find that most everything you do because of habit. Therefore, the real thing to understand is that the habit be good, and not something that is going to pull you down away from the goal of life, which is to return once more back home to God. And so to use the creative power of habit, we must utilize it for one of these three things. We can utilize it for good, we can utilize it for indifference, which is a serious thing, or we can utilize it for bad. The creative power of habit is a very strong force within us. And you analyze yourself and you'll realize, as the Master said, that we are creatures almost wholly of habit. Therefore, we must know what habits we are laying up, and we must form the right habits if we are to succeed in this drama of life and reach our goal. Now, speaking about habits, there are three main classes of those habits, or people who are bound by habit. First are the automatons. They simply act automatically. There's no independent action at all. They go from one thing to another. The Master used to call it breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and go to work and go home and go to bed and get up and do the same thing over and over again. They are automatons, creatures of habit. And then there are materially minded people. They are creatures of habit, or habits which lead them to do these material things over and over again. They are not bad people, they're good people. But nevertheless, they are not utilizing their habit to their greatest ability, that they become spiritually minded people. And the third class are the spiritually minded people. Those who, instead of following habits which lead them wholly to outward consciousness and outward living, they are following those habits which turn them toward something far greater, or their spiritual side within. those who follow self-realization fellowship. And I mean by that true self-realization fellowship, following the ideals as Master has given us of self-realization fellowship. They will without doubt lay up good, creative habits which will help them to reach the goal of life, oneness with the Infinite Father. So these are the three types of people. Of course, there's a little story about a girl who was giving an essay, a little girl in school, on parents. And she wrote, she said, we get our parents when they are so old, it's very hard to change their habits. So you see, that's another idea of habits. The essay was on parents. Very hard to change those parents. Well, those of us who have been parents can testify to that. It's awful hard for the children to change us. We're so fixed in our ideas. But I think as they grow up, sometimes they think, well, perhaps they were right. Perhaps I was wrong. So this question of habit is very important. And now let us go on with a few more points here. To utilize the power of habit in a creative, beneficial, and constructive way, we must, as I have said, use our will to lay up good habits. Now, you may want to change your habits. No question you do. We wake up in the morning and we feel, well, today I'm going to be good. We want to be good. We start out all right. And through the power of habit, sometimes we end up in the nighttime being devils. That's right. Through the power of habit. And so we must understand that it takes will to change the habit. It's very important to understand that. The automaton goes along automatically acting from habit until he does what? Until through will he lays up a new set of habits. And then only can he change from being an automaton to a person who uses independent action to change his habits so they are more creative and lift him toward the Infinite Father. And that's what we must realize. That intentions will not do. Intentions will not do. We have to follow it with action. We have to follow it with will. And so there are certain types of people who have certain types of habits. For instance, sick people, they have a regular line of habit. They enjoy ill health. And it's very difficult for them to get out of that habit. And sometimes when they have that habit, they will find themselves doing things that they know they shouldn't have done and they didn't want to do. But still they do them. Why? By the power of habit. I know when you're sick, those of you who've been sick, and I suppose all of us have been at times, we know under those conditions that we are stimulated to renew those old habits which are not good for us. And we know better, but still we go right on doing it. Why? Because our will is not strong enough. Will is a very important part. And so those people who are chronically ill, they have a certain line of habits. Then we have people who are mulish, so to speak. You know mulish? You know what a mule is? They can be very amiable. But boy, when they get stubborn, you can't change them. And so there are people with those habits. Very nice, very agreeable, until they get set on something, and like the mule, they won't give an inch. Those are certain types of people. Well, supposing God got that way, and he wouldn't give an inch, we'd be up against it. We'd have a situation on our hands. So we must not be in that class of people. And then the people who have health fads and diet fads, or I'd rather say health habits and diet habits. They are fixed in that. Master says, don't be attached like that. Don't be slaves to those things. Be free. Be free to change. Just because you cannot get a certain diet, just because you can't reach the SRF cafe, On Monday, or rather not Monday, Wednesday, from then on, don't think you're going to die. Because although you won't get as good food, we'll admit that, but you won't die. So these are illustrations of the certain types of habits and which the certain types of people fall into. And finally, moods. Moods are the worst mental habits. Moods are mental habits. Realize that, and they have power because, and the worst thing is that they work two-way, in a bad way. They work against the person who has the moods, and they work against those who have to put up with the mood. And so, moods are habits. If anyone here hasn't any moods, they're wonderful. They're very fortunate. But if you have moods, realize that they're mental grooves within you, habits, and that you can eradicate them if you can just catch them before they get operating. Because when they get operating, then they bring in other factors which make it difficult to obliterate the mood. And so moods are mental habits. Understand that. And as long as you are an automaton with moods, you are not doing the best you can. You are not doing as you should do, which we'll come to in a moment. So, the loftiest challenge to rebuilding of your habit structure is to so mold your habits, so make your body, mind, and soul a fit instrument to manifest divinity. Now that's the challenge of this question of habit, is to so mold your habits to rehabilitate yourself in body, mind, and soul. Not just in body, not to have a big healthy body and a mean mind and an ignorant soul, but to so remold yourself in those three things, body, mind, and soul, that you are fit to express the presence of God within you. You are fit to express divinity. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here, is to do that. It's not just to have a good time and have money and have houses and such things. It is not to be sick. In spite of those things, in spite of all the houses you have, in spite of the sickness, you are here for one thing, to express divinity. Because you are a child of God, I am a child of God, made in His image, and our duty is to express Him, to express divinity. Now that's the greatest challenge of this law of habit, is to so utilize it that you can change yourself, be a fit instrument of which God is proud. So, what should we do? Form the habit of meditation. All this discussion is leading up to the one thing. Form the habit of regular meditation. And then, by so doing, you contact the source of all power, all strength, all idealism, all truth. And then, no matter whether you're in a profession or an artist or in business or in whatever walk of life you are, by meditation, you contact the presence of God within. And from that source, you will find sufficient power for all your needs to change even the worst habit. Even those habits which seem to engulf you and you feel that you cannot change, you can change those if you contact God. If you establish the habit of regular meditation, as we talked of this morning, if you establish that habit and feel God with you, there's nothing you cannot do in overcoming habits which are undesirable. And so establishing this habit of meditation, no matter what your work is, no matter what walk in life you find yourself, do that. And then the habits will be taken care of. That's the greatest lesson in this morning's talk. And so, as I have said, make self-realization fellowship, true self-realization fellowship, a habit. Make it a habit. And if you do that, because the ideals are so wonderful which the Master has given to us. Why? Because he lived it. He had good habits. He had the best habits, those habits which helped him to live as God would have him live, as an example for many to follow. And so likewise we can, if we follow true self-realization fellowship, then we will once more make our vehicles fit to express divinity as God would have us do. He wants us to do that. He doesn't want us to be sick. He doesn't want us to be moody or mean or mulish. He wants us, if we are that way, to change so that he can express those good qualities which we should express and which, as children of God, we surely can express. And so, make the habit of seeking God paramount. Seeking him first before you do any action. That's the only safe way. Seek God out first before you do even the ordinary actions, because you may still, through the law of habit, be following something which is far beneath your dignity. But if you seek him out, contact him through meditation, you will know what you are following, whether it is right or wrong, whether it is the highest that you should follow. Seek God first. Make the habit of regular meditation a must in your life. So here are a few axioms to remember. Make non-attachment a habit. Non-attachment. Not only to those things which pull us down, but to those things which are ordinarily thought of as good. If there's attachment, it's binding. So make non-attachment a habit. When things go along like a song, we all feel way up. But we shouldn't allow that habit to be formed, because we are giving in to that which is not good, because there'll always be a leveling off process in this world existence. But if we keep even, as Master said, keep even-mindedness is a great thing. We must keep that even-mindedness. Then we will not be swayed by too much pleasure, as we call it, and when adversity comes, we will not feel it as much as if we were up 1 minute and down the next minute. So make this non-attachment a habit. Now, habits of thought are mental magnets which draw conditions to you. Remember, habits of thought, are mental magnets. If you have the habit of thinking in a way of failure all the time, you will surely attract it to you, because those are mental magnets. But if you think of God a little more and feel more of his presence within you, then that also will attract that. And instead of being a failure, you will be a success, even at times, though you are thought a failure in this world existence. Those who have God, those whose thoughts are seeking God out in everything. It doesn't make any difference what it is, building a house, buying some land, doing your housework, whatever your work is. Why not take him with us? Why not make the habit of feeling him as a part of what we're doing? That's the only safety. That's the only way to be sure in this world existence. Then if we give all the time to the world will not be responsible for us when things go wrong because of worldly habit. That's something to remember. You'll give all your time to outward living, laying up those habits of worldly action. And when things go wrong, does the world come and take care of you and feel for you? No. But if you make God the habit, you will be never left alone. So let us not give too much time to worldly living. And finally, remember will. Will is behind all action, and therefore will is the motivating force behind these good habits which you are going to lay up. God created universe upon universe, a billion suns, so to speak. How? By will. and His will is in us if we can utilize it. Therefore, we can break any habit, no matter what it is, no matter how difficult, how deeply ingrained by the power of God within us, His will. We can eradicate any habit. Master has a wonderful passage on this one point that I would like to read to you at this time, but first let me say, he used to say most wonderfully, good intentions will not do. Good intentions are not enough. I think he used to say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So that's not enough. We must put the will into it. We must put our feeling into it. Then we can do something. And from Master's autobiography, this is what we read. Even when the flesh is weak, even when that habit, that undesirable habit, has gotten you, so to speak, even when the flesh is weak, the mind should be constantly resistant. If temptation assails you with cruel force, overcome it by impersonal analysis and indomitable will. Every natural passion can be mastered. Every natural passion can be mastered. Why? Because we're made in the image of God. That's why. And He is with us always. And so finally, never let life beat you down. I always remember my son wasn't too old. One time something went wrong, and he says, Dad, he says, don't let it floor you. Don't let it floor you. And I always have remembered that. Don't let it floor you. So don't let this life beat you down. It says in the 82nd Psalm, I tell you, or you are a child of God, I have said, ye are gods, every one of you, children of the Most High. Why should we be cowed down by anything? Why should we let this worldly living beat us down? Made in the image of God is not good for us. That's not expressing divinity. We express divinity in spite of what we get, in spite of the knocks we get, in spite of the persecution. To feel the presence of God within, feeling that, seeing His light with you, nobody can get you down. Nobody can floor you, so to speak, because we have established that habit of feeling God with us. And therefore, make the habit of daily contacting your father, mother, friend, beloved. The greatest thing that we have. We must make the habit of contacting that daily. And then, as I have said, no matter where we find ourselves, everybody thinks that his or her job is the worst thing. His or her predicament couldn't be worse. That's not so, if God is with you. So make that habit. Let us make that habit of feeling oneness with the Father, the Mother, friend, beloved God. There's no aspect which appeals to you that the omniscience of God does not have. Everything you can think of. Father, Mother, friend, beloved God. That's why Master utilized that prayer. Every one of us made up differently through habit. Some have an emotional nature. Some have a nature where will predominates, reason, such things. Some have a soft nature. Some are rough. Some are mulish. But God has an aspect to apply to each and every one of us. That's why it's so wonderful to make the habit of taking God with you in everything you do. If we would do that, when we come to barriers which seem insurmountable, and we realize we cannot handle it ourselves, you give it to God, and He easily takes care of it. So we must make that habit of knowing the one eternal Father, Mother, friend, beloved God. And so, finally, Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God, and other things shall be added unto you. Seek first. Take God with you. Don't try, even though a thing is almost automatic in action. We are not safe unless we take God with us. As Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God, and all other things shall be added unto you. Therefore, breaking bad habits can be overcome if we take God with us, because His power is supreme. The trouble is we don't realize that. We do not realize that we alone cannot do it. It's against the law. In this outward living, there's duality. You're bound to have it. You cannot make it smooth, but you can, by the power of God, rise above it to that smooth lake of God's presence. That's the answer. Don't think, Master used to say, that you'll find any peace to mount to anything in this world existence, but you can rise above it into that clear lake of God's presence. There's where there's peace, and you cannot exhaust it. Why do we stay down here, being thrown from this condition to that condition? Why not know God then? Whether we do this or whether we do that makes no difference. We can overcome everything, even all habits. And so, those who, in a vague way, meditate and contact God, when the power of bad habit comes, then they succumb. Realize that. If you search out God in a vague way, meditate just a little, when these bad habits come, the force of them is irresistible to that person, then they succumb. But those who make God in the channel, those who make Him supreme in their life, and feel the necessity of knowing Him and meditating not a little, but intensely, and taking Him with them in every action, as Master used to say, they can stand unshaken through the crash of breaking world. So God has sent us a wonderful channel whereby we can overcome even the worst habit, and once more reclaim our divinity and act as such, by the law of habit of which I have spoken. And it says distinctly in the Scriptures about the exactness of this law of habit. And I'll close by reading to you from Matthew, the 25th chapter, 29th verse. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. If you have God, more will be given to you. If you have Him just a little bit, don't neglect it. Build on that, and abundance shall be given to you. But from him that hath not shall be taken away that, even that which he hath. Why? By the law of habit. By the law of habit. Habit works for evil, it works for good. And by adding to that good which is in us the presence of God as the holy vibration, the great comforter of which Jesus spoke, by more and more adding to that, so to speak, or being one with it, by regular and deep meditation, then through the law of habit, God Himself will help us. And no habit can sway us from our path. God alone is. God alone is. And He has sent this channel for us to follow. Make the habit of regular communication with God, regular friendship with God. Make that habit your own. Make it paramount in your life, and we cannot but succeed.